Sons of Anarchy is one of the most brutal TV series of all time, and today we're taking a look at just a few of its most shocking moments. One of the most jaw-dropping scenes in Sons of Anarchy's bloody history is the moment when Gemma kills Tara. It's a beat that was built up from the very beginning of the show when Gemma warned Tara about being with Jax. It was almost inevitable, but truly shocking when it finally did happen. The moment comes directly after Gemma is broken up with by Nero, and Gemma is convinced that Tara made a deal with the feds to throw Jax back in prison. This knowledge came from Wayne, and in her drugged-out mind, it made sense for Gemma to take matters into her own hands. So in a moment that pushed the 6th season over the edge into full-on mouth-agape territory, she did away with Tara in a horrifically brutal fashion that felt more at home in a slasher movie than on an already incredibly violent prestige television series. It's worth mentioning that the scene also led to the death of Roosevelt, who's dispatched by Juice when he tries to call in the incident. It's not a brutal death per se, but it is sudden and jarring. Squirrel was ordered to attack Otto by Henry Rollins' character AJ Weston. Jax eventually does the honors of taking him out. Gemma's actions ultimately set off a chain of events, leading to this next moment. Of course, the other side to Tara's death is that in a way she brought it on herself through her own scheming over the years. This isn't something that can be said of Tig's daughter Dawn. Sure, she has her own little scheme to get money from her dad in the season 4 episode With an Ex, but she's not part of the club and not affiliated with organized criminals outside of being related to one. Despite her relative innocence, the Sons of Anarchy production team gave Dawn one of the more horrifying deaths in the history of the show when she was burned alive by Pope in the season 5 premiere Sovereign. It's made all of the more sickening by Tig's reaction, expertly handled by actor Kim Coates. Eventually, Tig does get his revenge against Pope, though it's a far less horrific means to that end. Taking things back to Gemma for a moment, if there's an incident directly involving the character that's just as, if not more, brutal than her murder of Tara, it's her assault in the season 2 premiere episode Albification. The incident occurs after Gemma makes the potentially fatal mistake of leaving her gun in the car while attempting to help what appears to be a desperate mother. She winds up knocked out and wakes up cuffed and at the mercy of a group of white separatists known as the League of American Nationalists, who proceed to do unspeakable things to Gemma. She puts up a good fight, as is to be expected, but at the end of the day, she falls victim to one of the most painful and triggering moments in Sons of Anarchy's vile history. What makes this scene even more tragic is that justice is never truly done, as the man behind the assault, Zobel, would eventually escape the United States and never be seen again. That is, unless you subscribe to the theory that his plane crashed, but showrunner Kurt Sutter has publicly stated that this isn't the case. Scaling things back a bit, in the season 1 episode Giving Back, we get a particularly savage display of club rules in which Kyle, a former member of the club, is found to have never gotten his son's tattoo lasered off. It turns out that the club does not take this lightly, and Kyle is lured into the garage, where he's tied up and his shirt is removed, revealing the tattoo. Clay offers Kyle 2 options. He can have the tattoo removed by fire or by knife, to which Kyle reluctantly chooses fire. It's then up to Tig to do the dirty work, and he uses a blowtorch to remove the tattoo. Unsurprisingly, Kyle passes out from the pain. Later on, in the season 5 episode Dorothy, Clay gets a far less nauseating tattoo removal when he's excommunicated from the Sons. One of the most violated characters in Sons of Anarchy, in fact probably the most violated, has to be Otto. He spends the entire show in prison, and while there, he undergoes a whole host of trials and tribulations. In the season 2 episode appropriately titled Smite, Otto is mopping a floor when he's surrounded by members of the Aryan Brotherhood. He does his best to defend himself, but is held down while the leader, Squirrel, jams a broken mop handle into Otto's right eye. Later, Otto does get his revenge. With the help of the Black Gorilla family, he takes down Squirrel in the library and stabs him in the neck with a shank. This might count as a brutal moment, but then it's not even the most horrific instance of Otto stabbing someone in the neck.
Sons live. Redwood bleeds,
says Otto just before he commits the shocking and horrific murder of the nurse Pamela in the season 5 episode To Thine Own Self. The killing was brutal and it served a dual purpose: to negate his own testimony implicating the Sons in a RICO case, and to send a message to Jax by making Tara an unwilling accomplice in the incident. That aforementioned murder led to the introduction of Pamela's brother Lee Torek, a US Marshal with his own mental issues to contend with. This rivalry would eventually lead to another brutal moment when Lee attempted to get a statement from Otto following a ton of abuse levied at the prisoner. It was in this moment where Otto tricked Lee into attempting to strangle him, which gave Otto the perfect opportunity to shank the bloodthirsty lawman. This of course also leads to Otto's final moments, as he is shot to death by the guards immediately after killing Lee. Speaking of horrifying things happening in prisons, we have to talk about Opie's brutal death at the hands of a group of prisoners in the season 5 episode Laying Pipe. That murder was orchestrated by Pope, the same antagonist responsible for burning Tig's daughter alive in the season premiere. He has the prison guards force Jax to sacrifice one of his own, for which he's about to submit himself when Opie attacks the guards, thereby sacrificing himself in the process and saving Jax from certain death. In this instance, you get a great feel for how Kurt Sutter and his crew film violence. It's quick, and it's messy, and it hurts. You can really feel Opie getting hit with that pipe, and the final blow is especially devastating to watch. But the most brutal scene of them all barely features any on-screen violence, and that's the school shooting from the end of the season 6 premiere Straw. In the scene, a young boy approaches a Catholic school and quietly and carefully sets his book bag down and sits on a bench. Then he patiently pulls up his sleeves, revealing a series of scars obviously meant to be self-inflicted. Then he pulls out his notebook, but the camera cuts away before we can see what's inside. It's only after he pulls a KG-9 out of his book bag that we see the horrifying contents of his notebook. Drawings of murder and destruction. As the school bell rings and he walks toward the school, we don't need much more to realize what's going on, but the show gives it to us anyway. While Sutter and company never show the actual shooting, we do get an obscured view of the case through the school windows, and that's more than enough to count as potentially the most brutal scene in the series. It was so tough to watch, in fact, as to cause some controversy at the time. Bear in mind that this was the same episode wherein we'd seen Otto get assaulted in prison on the orders of Lee Torek, who's also revealed to be a drug addict. This was already a TV show pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable, but add in a school shooting just 9 months after a similar incident at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and it should come as no surprise that Kurt Sutter wound up releasing an apology video the day after the episode aired. He stuck to his guns, dismissing some of the criticism as ridiculous, and saying that in his opinion, those people who are outraged do not watch the show. Still, he did apologize for upsetting viewers. Sons of Anarchy was never shy about pushing the boundaries of violence and emotional intensity, and these moments prove just how brutal the series could be. From Gemma's shocking betrayal to Otto's relentless suffering and the devastating school shooting, the show didn't hold back in delivering some of the most gut-wrenching scenes in television history. Whether it was through personal vendettas, tragic sacrifices, or the ruthless nature of the outlaw lifestyle, each of these moments left a lasting impact on both the characters and the audience. But with a show as intense as Sons of Anarchy, there are plenty more brutal scenes that could make the list. Did we miss one of your picks? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching Screen Rant.